The dollar is continuing its unbelievable plunge. And then I saw Bloomberg as the Mexicans are panicking because the peso is surging up the charts, gaining on the dollar. This is never before happened.
And maybe that is a reflection of what they see coming with the North American Union. Maybe they're betting they're going to be successful. And, you know, this immigration bill is pushing that bill along, too, this whole idea of the North American Union. And if they're going to combine our currencies, that means you would be betting on the peso gaining against the dollar. But, you know, it's a guessing game, too, because none of the currencies are anything other than paper currency. So there's a lot of political guesswork being done, and yet I hope I'm wrong on that assessment, but it well could be some speculators thinking that they're going to be pushing us into this North American Union, which obviously we have to continue to fight.
Well, when the peso starts running up against the dollar, we know
there's something wrong.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong. Talking about the economy, I mean, now even Alan Greenspan's saying serious recession coming, which is what you've been saying for a few years, and you said a few years ago you saw that happening in the next 3 to 5 years. Do you still give us that prognosis, Doctor?
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, the evidence today is there. I think our growth in the economy is 0.6%. Annualized, and those figures are always fudged to make it look better than it really is. But there's an interesting statistic that shows that we're actually in negative growth because our population grows at 1.5%. So if you want even growth, you know, just holding our own, you have to grow at 1.5%, and yet we're at 0.6%. So we're in negative growth right now in real terms.
Well, doesn't the federal government also cook and fix a lot of the economic indices and datum that they add into the whole inflation and growth scales?
Yeah, I don't really believe any of them, and I don't know who puts them all together and whether they sleep well at night. But I don't really trust them. I think this website that John Williams has out is very good. He keeps tabs on real growth and money supply. He's the one that's put this M3 money supply together, and he also talks about the PPI and CPI in real terms. If you just use the old method of calculating the CPI, you know, we have an inflation rate of 7, 8, 9%. You know, so what happens is it's sort of like the money supply. If they don't want us to know, they cancel it or change it, and they do that with these other statistics too. But that's why I think people are much more disgruntled than the government statistics would indicate. You know, everything is wonderful according to government reports. At the same time, you know the people and what they're complaining about, and they're not all that happy. And they know that their liberties are being undertaken and removed. At the same time, their economic conditions are getting worse.
Congressman, last year the Defense Authorization Act, the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, moved us much closer to the president controlling the governors in emergencies, even environmental. Then, of course, you've written about this, but for the listeners recapping, we saw the Military Commissions Act, which all the top law professors looked at and said, yes, they strip citizens of citizenship and then can secretly use torture in a court of law in one of these kangaroo courts against you. Now, with Presidential Decision Directive 51, Bush, quote, gave the presidency, I don't know how the president does that, the new power to circumvent Congress during, quote, environmental emergencies or any emergencies he sees fit. In the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, they use the term during insurrection or rebellion. So please speak to the overall dictatorship that you've talked about that now is being set up, and then can you expand on that to, is the elite doing this so they can bankrupt the economy and fully suck us dry, or are they doing it because they've drunkenly overspent and now they can't control it and they're afraid of when it implodes, people are going to riot? Can you speak to that?
I think my first guess would be that they're preparing for bad conditions, and they know what we know, although they deny it and wouldn't say it, and they expect turmoil. And, when the entitlement system breaks down, there's going to be a lot of chaos. And I think they also know that the Chinese could bring us to our knees if they desire to, and they could destroy the dollar, and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. So in some ways, the executive branch always overextends, but the Congress is derelict because when they passed that change in the Insurrection Act in the DOD budget, they literally said it would be okay. So it has become law now with this recent executive order. He's just putting it down in black and white, in concrete, and he's telling us exactly how they can do it, and yet nobody seems to care, you know.
Is that a public, I had a reporter here yesterday, and he said, is that hyperbole, Mr. Jones? He said, I heard you say this is an open declaration of dictatorial powers. And I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, but they don't say that. They just say that they can take over the function, but it is a military dictatorship is what it is. It's authority, and it doesn't have to go through the Congress.
But for those in Congress, for those of us that study this and are into this and are informed, it is an open declaration.
Well, yeah, even though I'm just saying they don't use those precise words, but in reality it is, you know, and they have this authority. But it's been incremental. This seems to be a big burst of energy to solidify the power in the executive branch. And I guess we can't look into the minds and souls of everyone that's doing this, whether they say, oh, I love dictatorship, I want it, or whether they're just preparing for rough times and sincerely believe this is the way to do it.
Well, that's what concerns me, sir, is that, you know, we saw preparations 20, 30 years ago, but it was very small, it was emasculated, it wasn't robust. Now, everything they do is clearly being done to set up classical police state, you know, frontline oppression that you've warned so much about, and now they passed John Warner Defense Authorization Act, which openly says for insurrection and to dominate the public. They passed the Military Commissions Act. Yeah. They do this. I mean, do you think they're getting ready to try it?
Well, it's hard to say, but they are prepared, and, you know, this whole idea of getting rid of habeas corpus means that, you know, if they need this type, or they're going to use this type of power, I mean, they're not going to want to be handicapped by all of us going before a judge and forcing them to explain why they're holding us. Now they can hold American citizens without habeas corpus. That to me is one of the most atrocious changes in our law recently. That and the change in our foreign policy where we start preemptive wars. These two things, one international, one domestic, is a real threat to us.
I mean, is that not what Hitler and Stalin did? I mean, that's what Napoleon did. When you start saying there's no habeas corpus, you're guilty until proven innocent, and I'm going to preemptively attack whoever I want, I mean, what is that called, sir?
Well, it is. It's tyrannical. For them to succeed, though, they're going to have to really attack the Second Amendment, because that is the ultimate test of whether the American people will stand up to this abuse. So we'll have to wait and see if there's any extra effort. Matter of fact, there are some gun laws being prepared now as a consequence of this recent school episode, so they are going to make some more attempts. But still, the American people are armed, and we still have access to radio talk shows, and we still have the Internet, so our voices can be heard, and I think that's a lot about what this campaign is about.
Congressman, is it fair to say that the Republic is in the fight of its life, literally for its very existence?
Well, I think so. I think it's been going on a long time, but it seems to be coming to a head, and that's why you know, what we do now is crucial. That's also the reason I'm encouraged that our information is getting out better than ever before, and the young people are waking up, and that's great.
Congressman, the Logan Act, the cover of the Dallas Morning News, Texas Governor Rick Perry to attend Bilderberg meeting, and they say it's super secret and that he's flown over there to meet.
Yeah, well, that sure is a sign that he's very much involved in the international conspiracy, and of course he's been the promoter of the highway, but wasn't it pretty neat how the people in Texas spoke out, and the legislature also all of a sudden, you know, backed away and put a moratorium on that. That means that people do have a voice. But this information about him going over there and violating, if that becomes the case, the Logan Act and getting involved, I'm just very impressed that that's in the ordinary media. So that's to me, I think that's encouraging too. So go ahead and ask another one, but I got to go.
Okay, Congressman, stay there just one moment. We've got you scheduled at the bottom of the hour. If we're unable to, that's fine. I need to speak to you for one moment off air. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Presidential candidate Ron Paul.